offer that could rewrite Ben Simmons' career, the NBA may be staring at one of its most unbelievable comeback attempts. Because Ben Simmons is being connected to the Miami Heat, the one franchise that could either rebuild his career or expose every weakness he has left. This is not an ordinary free agent rumor. Simmons was once the #1 overall pick, Rookie of the Year, a 3-time All-Star, and one of the most versatile defenders in basketball. At 6'1", he handled the ball like a guard, created open shots for teammates, defended almost every position, and controlled games without needing to score 25 points. Then one playoff possession changed everything. After Philadelphia's collapse against the Atlanta Hawks, the confidence disappeared, and the criticism became impossible to escape. Simmons went from being viewed as a future superstar to becoming one of the NBA's biggest mysteries. His relationship with the 76ers broke down. His move to Brooklyn failed to create the fresh start many expected, and repeated back problems kept him away from the court. Now, Miami may be offering him something more valuable than money, one final opportunity to change how his career will be remembered. On paper, the basketball fit is fascinating. Erik Spoelstra values defense, versatility, quick decisions, and unselfish play, the exact areas where Simmons can still make an impact. Beside Bam Adebayo, Miami could create one of the league's most flexible defensive combinations. Tyler Herro could also benefit from another playmaker who can push the ball and create open scoring opportunities. But Heat culture does not reward old achievements. It demands elite conditioning, daily accountability, consistency, and complete commitment. Simmons would not arrive as a protected superstar. He would have to earn every minute, every possession, and every ounce of trust. That is what makes this situation so dangerous. Miami could unlock the strongest version of Ben Simmons that still exists, or become the final place where the NBA realizes that version is never coming back. Where are you watching from today? Comment your city or country below, and subscribe to the channel for more NBA updates. Press 1 if you believe Miami can revive Ben Simmons, or press 2 if you think this comeback will fail before it even begins. From future superstar to NBA ? Before Ben Simmons became one of the most debated players in basketball, he was supposed to become one of the faces of the NBA. Philadelphia selected him with the first overall pick in the 2016 NBA draft, and the expectations were enormous from the beginning. Simmons was not viewed as a normal prospect. At 6'1" with elite speed, court vision, and the ability to handle the ball like a point guard, he looked like a player created for the modern NBA. A foot injury delayed his debut for an entire season, but when Simmons finally stepped onto the court, the hype appeared justified. He averaged 15.8 points, 8.1 rebounds, and 8.2 assists during his first active season, winning Rookie of the Year and immediately helping transform the 76ers into a playoff team. But the numbers only explained part of his impact. Simmons could grab a rebound, push the ball from one end of the floor to the other, and create an open shot before the defense had time to react. He could defend guards, wings, and forwards while using his strength and athleticism to disrupt almost any matchup. Within 3 full seasons, he had earned 3 All-Star selections, an All-NBA honor, and recognition as one of the league's best defenders. At only 24 years old, Simmons appeared to have everything necessary to become a franchise superstar. Everything except one skill that opponents refused to ignore. His reluctance to shoot from outside slowly became a larger problem. Defenders backed away from him, packed the paint, and dared him to prove he could punish them. During the regular season, Philadelphia could survive those limitations. In the playoffs, every weakness became easier to target. Still, very few people expected the decline that followed. Simmons was entering what should have been the strongest years of his career. Instead, one postseason series would change his reputation, damage his confidence, and begin a fall that almost nobody could have predicted. The player once compared to some of basketball's most versatile stars was about to become the center of one of the NBA's most painful collapses, the play that changed everything. It happened in a matter of seconds, but the consequences followed Ben Simmons for years. During the 2021 Eastern Conference semifinals, the Philadelphia 76ers faced an Atlanta Hawks team they were widely expected to defeat. Philadelphia had championship ambitions, home court advantage, and a roster led by Joel Embiid and Simmons. But as the series became more intense, Simmons began disappearing offensively. He stopped attacking the basket with the same confidence. He passed up opportunities that once looked automatic. Atlanta repeatedly sent him to the free throw line, and every miss appeared to increase the pressure surrounding him. Instead of playing freely, Simmons looked trapped inside his own decision. Then came Game 7. Late in the fourth quarter, with Philadelphia desperately needing points, Simmons received the ball near the basket. He appeared to have an opportunity to finish at the rim. Instead, he turned and passed to a teammate. Atlanta recovered, The possession produced nothing, and the 76ers eventually lost the game and the series. That single play became the image attached to his entire career. It did not matter that one possession alone did not decide 7 games. It did not matter that other players had also made mistakes. Fans, analysts, and former players saw the moment as proof that Simmons no longer trusted himself when the pressure became overwhelming. The criticism exploded immediately. A player once celebrated for making the right pass was now attacked for refusing to shoot. His unselfishness was reinterpreted as fear. His calm personality was described as a lack of urgency. Every weakness in his game suddenly became part of a much larger judgment about who he was as a competitor. That was the most damaging part. Simmons did not simply lose a playoff series. He lost control of his own story. From that moment forward, every game would be measured against that decision. Every missed free throw would bring the memory back. Every time he passed near the basket, people would ask whether the confidence had truly returned. And inside Philadelphia, the situation was about to become even more destructive. Philadelphia's public breakdown. The 76ers playoff elimination should have been followed by private reflection. Instead, the frustration spilled into public view. After the loss to Atlanta, head coach Doc Rivers was asked whether Ben Simmons could be the point guard on a championship team. Rather than offering a strong defense of his player, Rivers admitted that he did not know the answer. Joel Embiid also discussed the turning points of the game and referenced the possession when Philadelphia passed up an opportunity near the basket. Even though Embiid mentioned other mistakes, many people interpreted his comments as another criticism of Simmons. For a player already facing overwhelming pressure, those words mattered. Simmons had spent years building Philadelphia's future alongside Embiid. Now, immediately after the most painful moment of his career, it appeared that the two most important voices in the organization were questioning him in public. The relationship quickly deteriorated. Simmons requested a trade and stayed away from training camp. Philadelphia began issuing fines for missed practices and games. The disagreement grew beyond basketball, becoming a battle over trust, communication, money, and Simmons' readiness to return. He later spoke about mental health challenges and said he was not prepared to play. That made the situation far more serious than an ordinary trade demand. Supporters argued that the organization should show patience and compassion. Skeptics believed Simmons was using the conflict to force his way out. The truth became buried beneath daily headline. Every update increased the tension. Every leaked detail created another argument. Philadelphia wanted Simmons to return or protect his trade value, while Simmons appeared determined to end the relationship completely. By then, there was almost no path back. Even if he had returned to the court, every mistake would have been met with a hostile reaction. Every missed shot would have reopened the playoff wound. The trust between the player, the franchise, and parts of the fan base had been damaged too deeply. Philadelphia had once believed Simmons and Embiid could lead the team for a decade. Now the organization was searching for the right deal to separate. When that deal finally arrived, Simmons was sent to Brooklyn in one of the biggest trades of the season. It looked like the fresh beginning he desperately needed, but the next chapter would bring a different kind of struggle. Brooklyn was supposed to save him. When Ben Simmons was traded to the Brooklyn Nets in February 2022, the move looked like the perfect escape. Philadelphia received James Harden, while Brooklyn added a younger player who appeared capable of complementing Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. Simmons did not need to become the primary scorer. He could defend, rebound, create in transition, and allow Brooklyn's elite shooters to handle the offensive pressure. For the first time in months, there was optimism. A new city meant fewer memories of the Atlanta series. A new locker room meant he no longer had to repair the broken relationship in Philadelphia. Surrounded by talented scorers, Simmons seemed positioned to return to the role that once made him special. But he could not get healthy enough to play. Back problems kept him sidelined, and he eventually underwent surgery for a herniated disc. The recovery process became longer and more complicated than expected. Instead of rebuilding his reputation on the court, Simmons spent more time answering questions about when he would return. When he finally played, he looked different. There were flashes of the old vision and defensive instincts, but the explosive athleticism was inconsistent. He rarely attacked the basket, and opponents continued to ignore him away from the paint. During the 2022-23 season, Simmons averaged only 6.9 points while appearing in 36 games. Brooklyn was also collapsing around it. Durant and Irving were eventually traded, ending the superstar era that Simmons was supposed to join. The Nets entered a rebuilding phase, leaving him without the stable environment many believed he needed. The contract made everything worse. Simmons was earning superstar money while producing like a limited role player. Every absence became a headline, and every quiet performance invited another comparison to the all-star he had once been. Brooklyn was supposed to erase the pressure. Instead, it created a new version of it. By the end of his run with the Nets, Simmons was no longer being judged as a former #1 pick with unlimited potential. teams were beginning to evaluate him as an injury risk with an uncertain role. His next opportunity would offer small signs of hope, but it would also reveal how far his value had fallen. The league started moving on. The Los Angeles Clippers did not need Ben Simmons to become a superstar. They needed him to defend, move the ball, create transition opportunities, and bring size to the rotation. After everything that happened in Philadelphia and Brooklyn, the smaller role appeared to offer exactly what Simmons needed. At times, the experiment showed promise. He still saw passing lanes that many players missed. He could grab a rebound and immediately create pressure before the defense was set. Against certain matchups, his size and defensive versatility remained valuable. There were possessions when he looked comfortable, aggressive, and connected to the game again. But those moments never lasted long enough. Availability remained the main concern. His offensive limitations made lineup construction difficult, especially when he shared the floor with other players who needed space near the basket. Opponents continued to defend him from a distance, shrinking the driving lanes for everyone else. When free agency arrived, the market was quiet. That silence revealed how dramatically the league's opinion had changed. This was a former #1 pick, Rookie of the Year, 3-time All-Star, and All-Defensive Player. Only a few years earlier, teams would have discussed trading major assets for him. Now, front offices were asking whether he could stay healthy enough to earn a consistent role. The concern was no longer based on one playoff possession. It was based on years of injuries, missed games, reduced scoring, and uncertainty. Teams could still see the talent, but they could also see the risk. For Simmons, this was a brutal new reality. He was no longer choosing between teams prepared to build around him. He was waiting to see whether any organization believed it could rebuild him. His next contract would likely be short, inexpensive, and tied to proving himself again. That is why his public praise of Miami attracted so much attention. Simmons spoke positively about Erik Spoelstra, the Heat's discipline, and the culture created by Pat Riley. It sounded less like a random compliment and more like a player identifying the environment he believed could save his career. And from a basketball perspective, Miami offered something few other teams could provide: a demanding system that might still know exactly how to use him. Why Miami might be his last perfect fit. Miami does not need Ben Simmons to become the player he was in Philadelphia. That may be the strongest reason the partnership could work. Erik Spoelstra has built his reputation by identifying what players can still do and placing them in roles that maximize those strengths. Simmons can still pass, rebound, defend multiple positions, and push the ball in transition. Those skills remain difficult to find, especially in one player with his size. In Miami's system, Simmons would not need to dominate the ball. He could operate as a screener, short roll playmaker, transition creator, and defensive weapon. Instead of standing outside the three-point line where defenders can ignore him, Spoelstra could move him through cutting actions, handoffs, and possessions near the basket. Defensively, the possibilities are even more intriguing. Simmons and Bam Adebayo could switch across several positions, disrupt passing lanes, and turn defensive stops into fast break opportunities. Miami frequently changes coverages and forces opponents to make quick decisions. A healthy Simmons would give Spoelstra another versatile piece capable of executing those adjustments. Tyler Herro could benefit as well. With Simmons handling some of the playmaking responsibilities, Herro could spend more time attacking rotating defenses, moving without the ball, and finding open shots. Miami would not be asking Simmons to replace its scorers. The Heat would be asking him to make their jobs easier. But the fit only works under one condition. Simmons must accept that this is not a return to his old status. He would not arrive with guaranteed minutes, unlimited patience, or an offense designed around him. Every role would have to be earned through health, effort, and consistency. Miami has helped overlooked players rebuild their careers before, but the organization does not perform miracles without cooperation. The system can create opportunities, but it cannot force a player to embrace them. That is what makes Miami both the best and most dangerous destination for Simmons. If he accepts the role, the Heat could reveal that his career still has meaningful value. If he resists the expectations, there would be nowhere left to hide. And inside the organization, not everyone would view the gamble the same way. The Heat locker room would demand answers. The Miami Heat have never built their identity around celebrity treatment. Inside that organization, reputation may open the door, but it does not guarantee a place in the rotation. Every player is expected to meet the same standards of conditioning, preparation, accountability, and sacrifice. That would make Ben Simmons' arrival fascinating. Some people around the team could immediately see the upside. A healthy Simmons would give Miami another elite-sized playmaker and a defender capable of matching up with guards, wings, and forwards. His passing could create easier opportunities for Bam Adebayo, Tyler Herro, and Miami shooters, but others would have every reason to remain cautious. The questions surrounding Simmons are not only about talent. Can his body survive the demands of an NBA season? Can he remain aggressive after making mistakes? Can he accept being removed from games when opponents exploit his free throw shooting or lack of spacing? Most importantly, can he earn the trust of teammates who have spent years protecting Heat culture? Miami's players are known for embracing difficult practices, strict conditioning, and clearly defined roles. Simmons would enter that locker room with more attention than most minimum-level signings, but fewer guarantees than he had at any previous stop. That imbalance could create pressure immediately. Every positive practice report would create comeback excitement. Every absence would reopen old questions. Every aggressive drive would be treated as proof that his confidence had returned, while every passed-up opportunity would bring back the same criticism that has followed him since 2021. The locker room would have to separate the player from the public story. They would not need Simmons to explain his entire past. They would need him to show up, communicate honestly, defend with effort, and make decisions that help the team win. Respect would be built possession by possession. That is why Miami could offer Simmons something he has not had in years: a clear standard. There would be no confusion about what the team expects from him. The only uncertainty would be whether he can deliver it consistently. And even if he earns that trust, one major basketball problem would still threaten the entire experiment. The problem Miami cannot hide. Ben Simmons' greatest strengths make him interesting. His greatest weakness makes him extremely difficult to build around. Throughout his career, Simmons has never developed into a dependable outside shooter. Defenders regularly back away from him when he stands beyond the paint, using the extra space to protect the rim and help against his teammates. In the playoffs, that problem becomes even larger. Opponents study every lineup and attack every weakness. If Simmons shares the floor with Bam Adebayo, Miami could have two players who are not respected as consistent three-point threats. That would allow defenses to crowd the lane, reduce driving space, and make life harder for Tyler Herro and the rest of the offense. Free throw shooting creates another concern. Teams have intentionally fouled Simmons during important moments because his career percentage remains below 60%. If he cannot punish that strategy, Spoelstra may be forced to remove him from close games, regardless of how well he is defending. Miami would need to be creative. The Heat could use Simmons as a screener, cutter, interior passer, or small ball center. They could surround him with shooting and increase the pace whenever he enters the game. On defense, they could ask him to create enough disruption to compensate for his offensive limitations, but there is no perfect solution. Spoelstra can design better spacing, but he cannot make opponents respect a shot Simmons refuses to take. Miami can rebuild his confidence, but it cannot guarantee his body will remain healthy. The coaching staff can define his role, but Simmons must accept it. That is why a low-risk contract would make the most sense. A veteran minimum or incentive-based agreement would protect Miami financially while allowing Simmons to earn a larger role through games played, performance, and availability. The Heat would be investing in possibility rather than past accomplishment. If it fails, Miami can move forward without damaging its future. If it succeeds, the Heat could acquire a versatile defender and playmaker for almost nothing. The decision would not be about whether Simmons can return to being an all-star. It would be about whether a different version of him can still help a serious team win. That answer could determine how the final chapter of his career is remembered: redemption or the final end. Ben Simmons' story has reached a point where talent alone can no longer provide the answer. Everyone knows what he once was. He was the #1 pick, Rookie of the Year, a 3-time All-Star, and one of the NBA's most versatile defenders. He had the size of a forward, the vision of a point guard, and the ability to change games without leading the scoring column. But the next stage of his career will be determined by adaptation. If Miami gives Simmons an opportunity, there are 3 realistic outcomes. The first is genuine redemption. Simmons stays healthy, embraces a smaller role, and becomes a disruptive defender and secondary playmaker. He does not return to being a superstar, but he proves that his game still has value and earns a place on a competitive roster. The second outcome is more limited but still meaningful. Simmons contributes in selected matchups, helps during the regular season, and gives Miami depth without becoming part of the closing lineup. That would not recreate his All-Star years, but it could stabilize his career. The third outcome is the most painful. His body fails to cooperate, his offensive limitations become impossible to manage, or he struggles to meet Miami's expectations. If that happens, another major NBA opportunity may never arrive. Strategically, the Heat would need to protect themselves with a short, incentive-based contract and a clearly defined role. Simmons would need to focus on availability, defense, passing, and daily improvement instead of trying to prove he can still be the star he once was. The larger lesson extends beyond basketball. A second chance does not require pretending the past never happened. It requires learning from it without allowing it to control the future. Simmons has faced criticism, injuries, and public disappointment, but none of those experiences should remove his opportunity to rebuild with patience, discipline, and honest support. The most important victory may not be becoming an all-star again. It may be accepting a new identity and discovering a productive way forward. Do you believe Miami can help Ben Simmons rebuild his career? Comment 1 if you believe this could become an incredible comeback, or comment 2 if you think the risk is too great. Tell us where you are watching from, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and share this video with another NBA fan.